This video contains fictional depictions of blood and gore, most of them pixelated. Also spoilers for pretty much all the major Doom games. Today's video is a companion piece to this one, in which I talked about the relationship between BJ Blazkowicz from Wolfenstein and the guy from Doom. Or rather, the lack thereof. Go watch it if you want, it's not required. But after noticing all the inconsistencies and contradictions in those games' lore, it got me wondering, who really is Doomguy? Which games are part of the same timeline, so to speak, and which are even canon in the first place? Is there even just a single Doomguy or multiple? Those questions are what I set out to answer today. And I can tell you right away, even if you think you know the answer, the truth might not be what you expect. So let's analyze all the Doom games, including any in-game stories, instruction manuals, and even things like the title screen and other art. These are only the main titles, so no Final Doom, no Rest for the Living, or Sigil. Also no novels, comics, ports, spin-offs, offshoots, or shoot-em-ups. Got it? Let's go. We begin at the beginning, and in the beginning were the words, and the words made the world. That world was Doom once. So what do its words and the manual say? You play as a space marine who got transferred to a Martian UAC base as a punishment. When hell breaks loose, you get sent to one of Mars's moons, Phobos, to check it out. However, you end up being the sole survivor, as everyone, including your buddies, gets killed. The in-game text continues this plot, explaining how you end up dying at the end of the first episode and go to hell. There, you defeat the Cyber Demon in episode 2, then the Spider Mastermind in episode 3, and finally leave the underworld via a convenient portal. You step out onto Earth's grassy fields, wondering if any hellspawn came through the portal with you. And as the camera pans around, it turns out this was indeed the case, as Earth has been invaded. Whoops. Well, at least this game's story is over. Or is it? Because the text screen of episode 4, which was added after release, says otherwise. Apparently, before you battle with the Spider Mama, she quote, sent forth its legions of hellspawn, which then invade Earth and kill your pet rabbit Daisy. Therefore, it's killing time. But where does this episode even take place? Is it already on Earth or still in Hell? I assume the latter, since it looks very much like it. But that wouldn't make any sense if they were trying to invade the human world. Maybe it was kept vague on purpose. Ultimately, it doesn't matter anyway, as the whole thing was just a detour leading into the events of Doom 2. Alright, now let's take a look at the game's cover. It depicts a marine fighting demons, which could very well be our Doomguy. However, I have one question. Who the hell is this? Remember, you play as the sole survivor and never meet any humans. Then, who is this mysterious second marine? Are neither of them Doomguy, but just some unfortunate soldiers mere moments before their untimely demise? Maybe they're from the demon space after it went to hell. On the other hand, the actual title screen depicts no other person, and hey, Future Peter here. So, I was just rendering the video and watching it back when I realized there actually is a second Doomguy. So, who is he? Is it the same one from the cover, or second one altogether? Is he from the multiplayer? Is he canon? I don't know. Anyway, well, that gun he's holding doesn't appear in the game either. I don't think we need to take this 100% seriously. Cover art back then only gave a general idea of what the games were like, but they weren't meant to be very accurate. Just look at shirtless BJ here fighting M16 wielding soldiers who look like they fought in Nam. On to Doom 2, and here's where it gets interesting. According to the manual, you're a soldier who fought in space and was one of the first responders when Mars got attacked. You're also a sole survivor and responsible for stopping the invasion, which leads to you getting called a war hero for your efforts. However, it also says it's been quite some time since those events and you've quit the military. In fact, you arrive on Earth via drop pod while on leave and only then see it's under attack. You team up with humanity's remaining soldiers, lead the charge, and eventually end up being the sole survivor again. In-game, you help the captured humans escape into space and enter Hell. There, you kill the Icon of Sin, which destroys, quote, untold miles of Hell's surface. You wonder what happens to bad people when they die now, implying Hell is gone for good. A happy ending after all. The game's cover is interesting again. We can see this Marine's face, but his hair looks unlike the one from his mugshot. Hashtag justice for zigzag hair, by the way. But like I said earlier, this doesn't really count. I mean, you never fight a cyber demon in the city either. Maybe he cut his hair while he was flying through space in his drop pod. Actually, about that, didn't he arrive on Earth via portal? If so, when did he have time to quit the military or get called a war hero? By whom even? Everyone was dead. In fact, how did he even escape hell? If you can just climb out of it, then surely that'd have happened in all those thousands of years. Actually, here's the kicker. Hell isn't even mentioned anywhere in the manual. It just says you stopped the invasion of the Martian base. So maybe he didn't go there in the first place. It's also implied the demons invading Earth took a different portal located in Gotcha, which is miles away from where you begin the game. Which could be why they changed the story slightly. Still, you can see that the answer to the question of who Doomguy is hardly going to be straightforward. Maybe Doom 64 has more information for us. According to its manual, you were the sole survivor of the events of the first games, went to hell, and conquered it. Afterwards, instead of being hailed a hero, you got probed by military doctors, while the events on Mars were swept under the rug. You also developed PTSD from the whole experience. Oh joy! The UAC bases were then sealed and irradiated, hopefully killing everything inside. But after an unknown amount of time, it's discovered an entity, revealed to be the Mother Demon, resurrected all the monsters and made them stronger than before. So you get sent in to clean it all up. The in-game text says nothing, really. Most of it is just incoherent ramblings of Doomguy going insane and wanting to kill demons. However, he goes to hell again, defeats the Mother Demon, and then stays there. Huh. The Night Dive remaster from a few years ago added a new episode for the game. In it, you venture out to kill the Mother Demon's sister. Afterwards, you return back to where you were and receive visions of the future, foreshadowing the events of Doom 2016. Okay, so when does this take place? Not after Doom 2, I can tell you that much. Because why attempt to hide the existence of demons if everyone is painfully aware of them? Actually, the invasion of Earth isn't mentioned anywhere, so maybe it takes place before it. But at the end of Doom 1, you arrive back on the planet as it was under attack. And on top of that, you couldn't even have helped save the Earth after Doom 64 since you stay in hell. So, is it a different guy? It has to be, right? I mean, we never even see his face anywhere in the game since it doesn't have a mugshot. So, he might as well be. On the other hand, on this unused cover art, we can see a Doomguy that looks much closer to the original one, specifically the very first one. However, since it was cut and we've already established that art like this doesn't mean anything, it can't really be used as evidence. So far, we've had the original game, an episode that doesn't change anything, a sequel which contradicts parts of the first game, and another sequel or prequel that retcons at least one of the other games. And that's just the classic titles. What about Doom 3, the one that came out almost a decade after Doom 64? Well, here you play as a very obviously different guy altogether. He doesn't even resemble the old version at all anymore. Granted, that's not an argument either, as video game characters change their looks all the time. Chocolate box hair BJ says no. However, promo art for the multiplayer mode in the Xbox port shows a second Marine who's very similar to the one from Doom 2's cover. But that's hardly evidence, and I just wanted to point it out. So, could this be the original Doomguy then? Well, the story disagrees since the game takes place during the initial invasion on Mars. It's more of a retelling of Doom 1, even with the player going to hell and demons planning to invade Earth. It's possible that it happens alongside the first game and you just happen to never meet the other Doomguy. The only issue is that you are very much not the only survivor here. Not throughout the game, nor at the end. Plus, there's also the game's expansion, Resurrection of Evil, which stars an even different Marine. It also takes place 2 whole years after the first game, so I guess Earth's invasion hasn't happened. Or at least not yet. So no, neither of those games have our Doomguy, nor could have even taken place in the same universe. Finally, there's Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. These ones are again a retelling of the events of the first games. In 2016, there's an invasion of Mars, the player goes to Hell and defeats the Cyber Demon and Spider Mastermind. In Eternal, there's Hell on Earth and you have to defeat the Icon of Sin. Now, I'm not going to read through every single codex entry and play all the DLC and also wait for the recently announced Dark Ages just to figure out these games' convoluted story. Maybe one day, if there's very high demand for it, I will, but not now. The most relevant part is that the Doomslayer, as he's called, is centuries old and has battled alongside an ancient order of knights, and there's old gods and kings and angels and whatever. Remember that Carmack line about stories in games being like stories in pornos? Yeah. More importantly, however, the Slayer is apparently the same person as the one from the classic games, meaning these titles take place eons after the originals. His pet rabbit Daisy, for instance, is mentioned in Quake Champions and even appears in Doom Eternal. Furthermore, every time he opens his mouth, out comes a slew of rants about wanting to slay demons, much like in Doom 64. The Slayer also decided to remain in Hell, which is further supported by the new levels in the Night Dive port. Hip hip hooray, we've got another connection. It's as clear as day, the Doomslayer and Doomguy as we know them are one and the same person. Well, what Doomguy are we talking about here exactly? Let's summarize. In Doom 1, he goes to Mars, then to Hell, and emerges on Earth via portal. In Doom 2, he was also on Mars, potentially in Hell, and emerges on Earth much later via drop pod. In Doom 64, he was both on Mars and in Hell, but then chooses to stay there at the end. So, no matter which way we twist it, at least one game gets retconned. Doom 1 can be followed by Doom 2 as well as Doom 64. But 64 can't logically follow Doom 2 nor take place before it. It can be followed by Doom 2016 and Eternal, but if Hell on Earth never happened, where'd the Icon of Sin come from and who killed Daisy? Do you get my issue with this whole thing? The only way I can see it making sense is via timelines. In the first timeline, you have Doom 1 leading into Doom 2, and then the story ends there. The second timeline has Doom 1 followed by 64, and eventually by Doom 2016 and Eternal. Finally, there's Doom 3 and Resurrection of Evil kind of doing their own thing. Anything else would require you to ignore large parts of the stories. Hey, it's Future Peter again, and I'm actually here with another theory. So, remember how there were two Doom guys on the cover of the first game? Well, my theory is, what if there were two Marines who survived the initial disaster, but only one of them survived until the end? So, if let's say Doomguy A dies, it leads into the events of Doom 64, and if Doomguy B dies, it leads into the events of Doom 2. So they're technically the same Doomguy, but they're also not the same Doomguy, if that makes sense. And that would also explain why the haircut keeps changing. I mean, the game did launch with multiplayer, and the original intention was to have at least 5 different Doom guys, so if anything's canon, maybe it's the co-op. Alternatively, they really are all the same person. Yes, I know it doesn't make sense. But if we're willing to create contradictions by saying the Slayer is from the original games, it seems arbitrary to stop at some point. Which, of course, makes this whole debate and Doom's overarching plot entirely pointless. No matter where you look, something is not going to add up. Because ultimately, the developers never really intended for there to even be a grand story in the first place. It was all just an excuse for the gameplay to happen. So, here's my final answer to the question of who Doomguy is. It is whoever you think it is. Just don't believe there's only one concrete answer and that whoever's in charge of the games currently knows best. Because at some point, they all knew best, and that's how we ended up where we are right now. Anyway, that's it for this video. I'm probably going to make a similar video on Wolfenstein's timelines eventually. Don't count on it. Do let me know if you'd like to see that though. Please also tell me what you think about all of this. Was there anything I missed, or do you have your own theories? Just write it down below and I'll try to read it. And if you want to support me, then you can do that by leaving a like, subscribing to my channel, and even by donating directly to my Patreon. Anything is appreciated. But for now, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and goodbye.